Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Scorpio energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Scorpio, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio energy. We all have our dualistic nature within ourselves, and we have to battle within ourselves because we have to make decisions in our life. And in our high vibe nature, we might want to live our life a certain way, having a little more hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in our dreams and in others and in love, and be able to look at life maybe from a higher perspective. But in the bottom row can just represent, it might require us to step out of our comfort zone. We all kind of like to stay in our comfort zone to move forward in life. We got to face some of our fears, might have to heal, temper our ego or something. And the bottom row can just represent our fears. And, you know, it's kind of like our high vibe nature, kind of represented by God at the big picture, wants us to have hope and faith and belief in ourselves and keep growing and healing and maturing ourselves. Our shadow nature at the big picture, kind of represented by the devil, is all the fears and insecurities that want us to just think there's another way we could go about it without us having to heal and grow and mature ourselves or temper our ego. Get what we want without effort. And just like we can be in that energy at different stages, other people can be, and then we're dealing with them. So Scorpio energy is emotional water sign energy. You're either willing to explore the mysteries of life, and one of the mysteries emotionally is that we're these emotionally complex human beings. And, shadowy energy, again, can be all these things that manipulate us. We can stay keeping confused about our emotional nature, and it can overwhelm us. Our feelings can overwhelm us. Our mind wants to defend us in a way and keep us safe, but then that can stop us from living our life. Not letting, learning to master our mind and our thoughts, to not let them control us and manipulate us. Same way with our worldly nature, our lust, our greed, our pride, our ego, our defensiveness, and things like that. Let's look at the top row first. The people who've moved forward in life a little differently, they work through their shadow nature, they work through their fears and insecurities. They learned some lessons they were meant to learn. They could have realized this isn't my truth. We come in contact with all these different people to help us get clear about what our truth is. We can get in certain jobs, friendships, and relationships. Their truth is different than our truth. So somehow people work through um, something they'd been investing in, and they started to invest in, for one, having hope and faith and belief in themselves is the pages. I'm going to invest in my inner child nature of having hope and faith and belief, and the pages, and especially the page of pentacles, can be I'm willing to be a student of life. I had lessons to learn. I might have lived my life at a phase of life, but now it's time to move forward and kind of detach from some of my old ways of being so that I can give birth to a new me. Kind of like what we did age 15, 18, 21 to 25. We shed an old layer of ourself to, in the Page of Wands, have hope and faith and belief in ourselves. I am ready to face my fears, to go on this journey, to go to the next phase of life. So we start out with the Seven of Cups, then the Five of Wands, the Nine of Swords, and we have a card not showing itself, which is the Moon in reverse. And the reason for the top row is the Five of Cups, which is Scorpio energy. The Seven of Cups is also Scorpio. But, the Three of Cups can just mean that we were invested in something. We were living our life a certain way. We're working together with other people. And there could have been something about it that we felt either that people weren't working together with us cooperatively from love, that they were maybe trying to manipulate our loving nature, they were trying to manipulate us, or we were just more manipulated by things within ourselves and the world, and we got caught up in those things. And, at any phase of life, is it great to live at that phase of life initially? Yeah. But then after a while, we might realize how our fear of moving forward a little differently, having hope and faith and belief in ourselves, is kind of manipulating us. And then we don't like that my more immature nature or worldly nature or fearful nature or other people in my life, I feel like it's manipulating me. And I don't like feeling like things are manipulating me. And so you take that cup of higher love. I am going to take that cup of love to believe in myself. If there's people in my life who I feel aren't working together with me in a loving way, if I feel people are trying to manipulate me, I'm going to offer love to the situation. But if they keep not wanting to work together with me, you know, High Vibe Virgo here in the Knight of Pentacles is with self insight, self awareness, kind of having that hope and faith and belief in themselves or in love or willing to be a student of life to get out of their ego. I can only work together with people who work cooperatively with me, and I have to see the truth when people aren't. And then if it's just things within me, I have to see where my fears and my insecurities could be stopping me from taking action to bring my dreams into reality. So high vibe people did the inner work to heal, to grow, to mature themselves, to detach from what they needed to detach from within themselves and outside themselves to move forward. And then we go from the Five of Cups to the Seven of Cups, which is taking back the Two of Cups, which can be, again, there was a way of living my life. There was people that I was hanging out with. But as time goes by, I could feel like it's not moving forward. Um, that phase of life is done. I'm kind of ready to move forward in life a little differently. And I'm not going to align with in the Two of Cups, which also can just be what I wanted to emotionally invest in at one point in time and what I aligned with. And when we realize how we could have aligned with more of our shadow nature, taken jobs, gotten in friendships, gotten in relationships, living our life a certain way, viewing ourselves a certain way, viewing life a certain way, it could have been kind of shadowy, which is just, I had growing and healing and maturing to do, and I did. And now I'm ready to move forward a little differently. I don't want to align with that way of living life anymore because I've already been there and done that. And we kind of go through these phases of life to learn these lessons. And I've learned the lesson I was meant to learn. I offer truth and love to people to move forward with me. If they don't want to move forward with me in that way or be a supportive and encouraging of me living my more authentic truth, then they have the free will to live their truth and live their life and be at whatever stage of life they're at. But my intuition is telling me it's time to move forward. And high vibe energy is just about being more independent of your own shadowy nature to live your more authentic life and your truth. So in the Seven of Cups, it can be confusing. Um, the whole situation could have been confusing. We can be confused why other people aren't willing to move forward in life a little differently, why they don't have more hope and faith and belief in themselves or others or in love. And the truth is, some people could be more, they're either happy still at that phase of life. Again, when we think back to when, say, we were 18 and 21, I lived my life at a phase of life. Was it great? Was it just? Was it fair? Fun? Whatever? Yeah. But then there comes a time where, well, that was part of the journey. I'm ready to go to the next phase of the journey, and some other people are still finding that fun and all that good stuff, right? So it's like, well, you do you, but I am ready to move forward in life a little differently. And then the Seven of Cups can be also about having made peace with the past and working through making peace with the past to accept the truth that I am ready and some of the people in my life are being loving and encouraging and supportive, working together with me cooperatively. We're all kind of moving forward, being loving and encouraging of each other, being more independent, uh, listening to their intuition, loving and believing in themselves. And we're doing that for each other. And so then it's to have made peace with the past, because the Seven of Cups comes after the Six of Cups, and the Six of Cups can be I was repeating a pattern or a way of living life, but I've kind of made peace with that phase of life. Could have been great or fun, but out of love for myself and continuing to grow and heal and mature myself, and I have a dream I want to bring into reality, I'm inviting those people with, but if they choose not to, that's not where they're at right now, I accept the truth of it. So again, we offer love to it, to the situation, because love is the answer, so that we can keep moving forward. um, I'm going to explore the mysteries of life, of ourself, of others. Sometimes we're confused why other people act the way they act. Well, I just have to I don't have to understand it, but I can accept the truth that they enjoy doing what they do. They enjoy living their life the way they live it. I might have enjoyed that at one time also, but now I'm ready to kind of move forward in life differently. And then we have the Five of Wands that can talk about the fact that we do have inner conflict. Because anytime we're going to move forward in life a little differently, it is out of our comfort zone. There is a part of us in our more worldly or shadowy nature that is like, come on, just do this, don't do that, come back here, do this. Let's keep living life the way we've been living it. And then we might have people in our life or an employer who wants us to stay at a job. No, no, don't do that. No, stay here. And it's like, but I've already been there. I'm ready to move forward. Do you want to move forward with me? And they're like, no, I want to keep doing this. It's like, well, so it causes us inner conflict. But, um, the fives can also talk about change. I'm not the same person I was before. When I was living my life this way and I got into a phase of life, there was certain ways of thinking about myself, about others, about how I viewed myself, the world, what I believed was just and fair, um, the dreams that I had, and the goals I wanted to accomplish at that phase of life. But I did kind of heal and grow and mature myself. And now my intuition is calling me to go to the next phase. And you've changed. And sometimes we were in relationships with people and we thought they would keep working together with us, being loving and encouraging and supportive, and we would be loving and encouraging of them, and together we'd all move forward. But, other people can change. And sometimes people can kind of drift their life off into the ditch. Sometimes we didn't realize that some people are more, maybe like to indulge their more immature nature or their more worldly nature, like things of the world, either things they like to indulge in to make themselves feel better, are much more important to them than putting in work and effort to work through why those things kind of manipulate them. And we could have worked through why some of those things manipulate us, or just pride, ego, other people in our life. Maybe they're not willing to be more independent in the world, either from their more worldly view of life and things that manipulate them, or a friend or a family group, and they're still more codependent on those people, or their defensive nature, their ego nature, their immature nature, whatever it is, right? So within yourself, you're inspired to have this new beginning. The Five of Wands comes after the Four of Wands, and the Four of Wands is Aries energy, about the self. You're not the same person that you were before, and you lived your life at certain stages of life to help get more clear about what your truth is and your truth isn't. Again, I think high vibe people offer people truth and love, tell them their dreams, how they want to move forward, kind of what their truth is, and the other people have their free will to decide if that's their truth or not. And for some, that's not where they're at, that's not their truth. So it's like I've changed. I'm kind of motivated and inspired to move forward. And then in the Nine of Swords of Gemini, which is our dualistic nature, again, we can battle within ourselves, and there could be a part of ourself that kind of wants to go back and let that go, and let's just go back and do this. Because the Nine of Swords can be that we have fears of, that we're going to miss out on some things. The Four of Cups can feel like there's missed opportunities. But I could be in a job I love, a friendship, a relationship with people I love, but if I don't feel like anything's ever going to change, nothing's ever going to move forward, we're never going to give birth to anything new. We're going to keep repeating an old pattern over and over because they're comfortable repeating that old pattern. And that's the thing, at these phases of life, we are kind of at a stage of life, we'll repeat that pattern until we kind of have learned the lessons and ready to face our fears, to be more independent of that way of viewing life, living life, things that we're kind of caught up in, to be inspired to move forward differently. And then the nines are kind of completing a cycle and ready to detach from some old ways of thinking or believing, or to move forward in life a little differently. And, you know, we have a lot of lessons to learn, is what the pages can talk about. And, things again that we found that we used to like to invest our time, energy, and effort into, and ways that we used to view life, and this was the dream life. And, at that, at just like at different ages of our life, our idea of the dream life is different. What we wanted to go do and hang out with and do, like with people when we were 15, is different than at 21. And some people keep saying more like a 15-year-old, if nothing else, maybe in their emotional maturity level, right? Or what they want to keep investing their time, energy, and effort into. And it's like, I didn't plan to stay at that phase of life forever. I wanted to explore high vibe Scorpio, the mysteries of life. And then the moon can be that, um, well, and in reverse, you know, kind of not caught up in the illusion, because the moon can be being caught up in the illusion, like that nothing's ever going to change. I'm going to feel this way forever. I'm going to think this way forever. I'm going to want to live my life this way forever. Some people, that is how they live their life, and they want to live their life that way. But you could have harnessed your moon energy differently, which is Pisces kind of, and Cancer, that shadowy energy can be kind of dead and stagnant because of fear of giving birth to anything different, stepping outside your comfort zone, listening to your intuition, being more independent. And what some people maybe didn't know about you is you do listen to your intuition more so than the bottom row can represent your fears, your codependency, your worldly nature, to be the driving factor in your life. And some people's more immature nature, their more codependent nature, their more worldly nature still really can be what more drives them. But you've learned to offer love to yourself, to work through things that manipulate you, not wanting to stay in more codependent energy, more immature energy, aligned with your more letting the world or your ego or your lust or your greed or your pride or your ego or your defensiveness or your immaturity or your lazy nature keep running your life. And so the moon can be where, for a long time, we cannot want to see the truth. And for a long time, we can want to stay in denial of the truth, which are all things that the moon can talk about. But you could have felt like some people were creating an illusion, and that, you know, high vibe Scorpio is that you want to be in deep, meaningful relationships. Shadowy Scorpio can be people who really don't want to do deep, meaningful relationships. They could be people who align again in their Gemini nature with their more worldly nature. I want to be in a relationship. Don't you want to be in a relationship or a friendship or have a job? Isn't that the most important thing? I was like, yeah, but I want to be in jobs, friendships, and relationships with people who work together with me cooperatively from love, who are willing to learn lessons in life, shed and work through, some issues that maybe manipulate them, that stop them from being more inspired to offer love to themselves and to others and to the situation, and get out of their defensive nature, their egoic nature, keeping their more authentic, hopeful, believing, loving nature buried beneath the surface. Or if your truth is you're more about the world, then I accept the truth that you're more about the world. If you want to be in relationships to be in relationships, don't really want to do deep, meaningful relationships, I accept the truth of it. If what you love is being more about yourself, where you don't have to grow and heal and mature yourself, and want people to not require that of you, you know, they invest in kind of indulging their more immature worldly nature, then they want to be in relationships with other people who do. They're motivated and inspired to keep living life the way they live it. I might have done that for a while, but I can't keep doing that. We could have friends, family, coworkers who we can be loving and encouraging and supportive of. And they're like, that's great. You keep being loving and encouraging and supportive of me. And my truth is, I'm going to keep investing in not ever being willing to being defensive to the truth of where I need to maybe heal and grow and mature myself, or maybe where I'm immature and I'm hurtful and unkind and I make other people sad, or I try to manipulate people, or I indulge myself, so I think you should indulge me. I think that's just and fair. And we can all have people in our life that we have loved and cared for, that in a way we are kind of indulging them because we have hope and faith and belief that, had the illusion they would change, that they would be inspired within themselves to want to work through some things within themselves that manipulate them, or how the world manipulates them, or their ego, or their fear, or other people in their life, to see how they would benefit from maybe working through those things. But Virgo energy talks about the fact that you have to go within and you have to shed light. You have to be willing to see the truth of some of those things. And that can be confusing. Why do I do things that aren't very loving? Why am I more drawn and attracted to people who maybe do try to manipulate me or don't love me? Why do I reject people who do love me? Why don't I have more hope and faith and belief in myself? Why don't I have more hope and faith and belief in love? Why won't I let my more hopeful, believing, loving nature out to play in the world? Why do I just look out through the eyeballs and let my ego, defensive nature, run my life? And that takes work and effort. You have to kind of be willing to connect in with your emotions. You have to be inspired to even want to do that. And, there's free will choice in Gemini. I could do that, or instead, I could keep investing in doing what I do, invest in the things I invest in. I don't want to see the truth. Um, and they keep living their life the way they do it. And, just like anyone, eventually it's kind of like, I can only offer people work together with people in truth and love and encouragement. But if they never want to embody that within themselves, they're not inspired within themselves to take over that responsibility within themselves, then they do want me to stay in a more codependent relationship. Like, you do that for me. That's great. You be a loving and encouraging, supportive person. I've been looking for someone like you all my life. This is like my dream life. But I am never going to do that work within myself to be that type of person. So then you find yourself in more mismatched relationships. If you're being loving and encouraging and supportive, you've kind of tempered your ego to be a loving and encouraging person, to offer love, to want to be in deep, meaningful relationships with people. And then you find yourself in relationships with people who they like being in a relationship with you being that way, but they don't want to work through their fears or insecurities or defensiveness or more about these other things. And the Nine of Swords, it's that last sword, because there's 10 in every suit, to close out a cycle. It could even be that people are like, If it's a job, a friendship, or relationship, well, I like this and I like that and I like these things. But it's that last truth. It's like, can I stay in something, either a job I don't love, in a job, friendship, relationship with people who I think are maybe competitive, petty, envious, jealous, got a lot of inner conflict, immature, manipulative, bossy, controlling. There's a lot of things I could like about it, but it's kind of working through that last truth. If it's not, we're either building a foundation on love for ourselves and living our authentic truth, and then wanting to be in relationships with other people who want to build a foundation on love. That's a solid foundation. Otherwise, you're in a relationship for some other reason. And that's like building a foundation on shifting sand. If we already know people are immature and they like to be indulged, well, it just like an addiction, that is what they look to be the answer. They have not seen and been illuminated to the truth that it's love and them loving themselves. So all these other things that they can do to feel powerful or feel stable or feel in control or feel important are all these other things, instead of seeing the truth that I should grow and heal and mature myself, love myself, work through my emotional confusion, my fears, my insecurity, my ego, so I can do love. Love sets me free to be more independent, to be able to feel stable and confident within myself that I can pick myself up if things don't work out the way that I want. I don't have to try to control people or just see the truth that you can have all these things in the world, but if you don't have love or you're in a job that might pay you really well, but you hate it, you have the free will to manifest whatever you want, but it might be kind of miserable. And other people kind of are inspired to work through the confusion of it to get to the truth of it. No more illusion. I am clear about my truth. And I see what needs to go, and I see who wants me to keep indulging them, and I see who doesn't want to do the inner work, and I see who is more about themselves or the world or more codependent relationships or defensive to the truth. The truth sets people free, and the high vibe people work through the truth. No more illusion, no more caught up in the illusion. I'm going to go out in the world and offer people truth and love, to work together with them cooperatively. And I'm not caught up in the illusion like, oh, well, I got to act like this and I got to dress like this and I got to um, placate them or something or people please them. I don't want to be in relationships with people who want that kind of relationship dynamic. I'm going to go offer to work together with people where we could have these new beginnings, where all of us could be inspired to close out old cycles, work together cooperatively with love to keep moving forward, being loving and encouraging and supportive of each other. And love is to be just and fair, where you treat other people the way you like to be treated. And I'm just going to let other people decide if that's their truth or not. And there's some people that would kind of like to do that, but they could just have their own fears of love or being more just and fair, or Five of Wands and Leo is being more authentically themselves, and they'd have to come out from behind, just have a little more hope and faith and belief in love. And it's like, if they hadn't worked through those things, they were going to be that way no matter what. I'm just not, I'm going to keep going on my journey. I'm going to offer people truth and love to work together with them cooperatively. When I see that they have a problem with that, that's not their truth. I accept that. I make note of it, kind of. And I accept they're where they're at. And I'm going to keep working with the people in my life who do work together with me that way, and keep going on my journey to find more people who do work together with me in a more high vibrational nature. And some people who might even know you could be confused at how that you seem like you changed, like you're not the same person that you were before. And for some, it could cause them a little stress and anxiety because, you know, say you had a certain way of interacting with people or had a certain philosophy of life that at one point in time that this is just and fair and maybe I should indulge people in poor behavior. But again, love is to be just and fair. People are supposed to treat each other the way they like to be treated. Well, just like if you have people starting a new job, you don't expect them to know what somebody who's worked there a long time to have. And if you're working with people like children or younger people, we know that they don't have some of these life experiences. So we can be, you know, accept that they're where they're at. We are loving and encouraging and supportive of them. But eventually we want them to kind of take on some of that within themselves to kind of start growing and healing and maturing themselves and learning more of these things and being loving and encouraging and supportive. But if eventually it's kind of like raising a child who perpetually wants to be a child. Well, no, I want you to keep playing and interacting with me like that, like I'm 15, but they're 25. It's like, you know, kind of that phase of life is over. And once, you know, I can only offer people truth, love, and encouragement. And if you didn't choose within yourself to kind of grow and heal and mature yourself, and, you know, I can still be a loving and encouraging person in your life, but, you know, I'm ready to go on the next phase of the journey. And it's kind of like they never wanted that phase of life to never end. Well, no, still supposed to make me the center of your world. And I was like, you are part of my world, but that I'm, you know, it's not to be focused on you more 24/7 like when you were a child. You are an adult now. I offered you resources to I invested in you. Over here we have the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles. I could have been a loving and nurturing person to someone, but shadowy Queen of Wands is shadowy Leo. They could have been, again, a little more stubborn, a little more prideful. I like you investing in me. This is great. Let's do this forever. Let's move forward like this forever. I don't want to take the wisdom or insight or inspiration that you're trying to offer me for me to invest in that truth within myself. I like you indulging me, or I like trying to manipulate you, or I like trying to control you. I compete with you. Your truth is different than my truth. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to go let you live your truth. You can be whatever way you want to be, but you're going to maybe have to find some other people who want to take over my role in your life because that phase of life of indulging you like a 15-year-old is over. But maybe you can date someone or find some friends who want to indulge you more like a 15-year-old, but you're like 25. You know, and if that's how you're going to keep acting, yeah, I don't enjoy this relationship. We were supposed to move to the next phase. And if you don't want to, you don't want to. Well, I wish you peace and love, but I'm moving on. And I don't want to keep repeating this pattern. And sometimes that's why some people can be hurtful or unkind or manipulative because they don't want to move forward the way you want to move forward. No, come back here and focus on me. You know, some people even create the illusion that I have all this inner conflict or I have all this stress and fear. So, you know, that could have been, you know, loving for people where it's not like your child. Um, you could be a very loving, nurturing person, and people like loving, nurturing people in their life. And oh my goodness, and I have all this stress and I have all these fears. And, you know, loving, nurturing people can try to offer people truth and love to inspire them to work through those things, offer them resources, offer them truth and love and encouragement. But then as time goes by, you can realize that they want you to do that forever for them. They like being and staying in that energy. And for some it's just an illusion so that it like they're kind of trapped in their ego or their immature nature or their codependent nature or their fear or their competitive nature or whatever. And they want you to stay trapped in it with them. And it's like, I offered you truth and love to move forward with me to have this new beginning, but it can't keep staying the way it is. If during the course of a friendship or relationship or job, during the course of time, I grew and healed and matured myself, I shed some old ways of being, I tempered my ego, I learned more things in life. Um, but you're not. And some people like playing that role in people's life and don't want you to heal and grow and mature yourself because they don't want to heal and grow and mature themselves. They always want you in your more ego and confusion and competitive nature and fearful nature. And we could have all gotten in relationships with people at different times in our life being in that energy. And then we can get in a relationship, we can be loving and encouraging and supportive of each other. But if one person does some of this inner work where they've kind of freed themselves from some of the things in the moon card that had been hidden beneath the surface, offered love to it, did some inner work that now they're ready to move forward in life a little differently, then the people you could have been in a relationship with, whether it was a friend, a family member, a parent, a coworker, someone you wanted to marry, someone you did marry, some of those people didn't like it because they wanted, if you had been in that energy at one time, they wanted you to stay in that energy. They could like that type of relationship dynamic. I like seeming like the loving, nurturing, supportive, encouraging person. I like to be in a relationship with people who are in that energy, to each their own. And again, we could have been loving and nurturing people to each other, but it's kind of like, well, it's okay for you to change some, because maybe some of those things did kind of stress me out if you were more, whatever degree of ways you had to grow up and mature yourself, right? That's one thing. That's great. Now that you did, let's move forward and let's, though, kind of keep staying in a more codependent relationship or a more worldly focused, inspired, for more worldly inspired reasons. Like this is stable and secure. This has status and image or whatever, but they're not inspired to them to change, So it's like, well, now that I could have healed and grown and matured myself, I'm ready to go to the next phase of life. And they were like, I was never planning to go to the next phase of life. I might have wanted you to work through some of those things, but I was always more focused on aligning and investing in my more worldly view of life. We should make our life more about conforming to the world, being in the relationship and staying in the relationship more for the status, ego, and the image. And some people never thought they would look at life differently. And then it's like, I do look at life differently. And I'm not as codependent as I used to be. I'm not as maybe caught up in things of the world, either that I used to indulge in on my own or with you, or that I used to make my life about. I do look at life differently. I've changed to a degree where then sometimes the other people aren't willing to change with you. So, high vibe Scorpio is harnessing high vibe Scorpio, high vibe Leo, high vibe Gemini. In your free will, you are inspired by deep, meaningful relationships. No more. And shadowy Scorpios, more superficial, shallow relationships, more for the ego, the image of status, the fear, the codependency, or whatever. And you could be sad that, you know, some people aren't on that page. Some people don't want to move forward with you in that energy. Some people are that are in that energy are offering you, the people that are in your life that are like that or that are going on this journey with you as you move forward. I think, kind of investing our time, energy, and effort more into people who are aligned with that energy. We meet more people who are aligned with that energy. Um, keep staying focused on truth and love. Shadowy energy, kind of represented by the devil, is that we could go get involved in things that would be like just make us feel better. But it is kind of just to make us feel better. And some people could be doing that right now just to make themselves feel better. High vibe energy is knowing I need to learn to invest in loving and believing in myself so that I align with my more hopeful, believing nature. And if I indulge in kind of poor behavior, I'm going to be planting bad seeds and I'm going to get a bad harvest. So I don't want like the short term gratification. I am investing in the long term. I have a dream. And so always offering yourself love to work through things, to not settle for the illusion. If I don't want the illusion, I can't take action and create an illusion. I have to be authentically myself, maintain balance within myself, offer people truth and love, and I'm not going to get invested in things that aren't that. And there could be some people that could like to be in a friendship or relationship with you, but they can't hide behind their ego nature anymore. The opposite of the moon is the sun. You have to be authentic. You have to come out from behind your defensive egoic nature and do love. And, if you do love, you can get hurt. But it's just being authentically yourself, getting to know people, you know, and some people would be like, uh, I could do that, or I could just keep investing in my ego and my defensive nature, and there's other people I could get in relationship or friendship with. And maybe those people would be willing to move forward with me, and maybe they're more about the world, or maybe they'd make their life more about indulging me. And some people, depending on what their truth is. If some people think, no, I think the way to be happy is for it to be all about me, or where I can manipulate people, or control people, or be immature and they indulge me like a parent would a child. Yeah, that's living the dream. Some people have no interest in growing up and maturing themselves. Some people have no interest in tempering themselves. That's high vibe Leo, tempering your more egoic nature. And some people are like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to keep investing in, I think my ego keeps me safe. I'm sure indulging in my immature nature, or whatever, being more about myself, or being bossy, or controlling, or prideful, or more about the world, I'm sure that'll make me happy. Well, it might, if that's what makes them happy. For other people, they realize that didn't make them happy. So, what's coming up for the high vibe people that harness some high vibe Scorpio? We have the Lovers reverse, and the reason is because of the Nine of Swords. So, just like the Two of Cups, um, here we have the Four of Cups, and here we have the Seven of Cups. The difference between the two, and this could be, what energy you were in when you started. You go from the Four of Cups to the Seven of Cups, and that's kind of taking back the Three of Cups, which can be a way of living life and viewing life, a foundation, emotionally, a foundation that we used to operate from. And then the people that were in our life when we lived our life that way, or viewed life that way, or felt that way, or something. And the Lover's card in Gemini energy there can be on both sides of the spectrum people who are more motivated by love, some people who aren't, a little more defensive, or a little more immature, or a little more prideful, a little more materialistic, or whatever. We can meet people on both sides, and that we could have in our family and a friend group and work group, and we can love them. There can be a lot of things and we can enjoy their company. We can know all sorts of people in the world and get along with them and enjoy them. Do I want to be in some of them a more involved relationship? No. Do they want to be in a more involved relationship? with me? No, it's like what you kind of like to go do and how you like to spend your time and kind of what's important to you is different than me. But it doesn't mean we can't like each other and be friends with each other, right? We just, neither one wants to be in a more involved relationship with each other. But we can get in relationships with people when we were in a more, whatever stage of life, or our more fearful nature, our more codependent nature, lacked hope and faith and belief in ourselves, hadn't learned to love ourselves. And then those people we did get in a more involved relationship with. And you could have love for them, and they could have love for you. But as time went by, it's kind of seeing the truth that the Page of Swords can kind of be, I have my truth that I'm defending, kind of what motivates and inspires me and how I want to move forward. And the Page of Swords can represent all three of the air sign energies of Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. In my free will, my idea of the dream life and what I think is just and fair, or what I think is just and fair of how to conduct myself in a relationship, that's my idea of the dream life. In their air sign energy within themselves, their Gemini nature of what they think is just and fair is kind of, and their idea of the dream life is different than yours. And we could have been people who helped each other work through some confusion, some inner conflicts, some fears and insecurities, because we could have had similar fears or insecurities or inner conflicts. But at a core foundational level of the truth of how we ultimately drives our life can be different. But we could have went through a phase of life with people where we could have been loving and nurturing to each other, helped each other through a phase of life, helped each other work through some issues in our life. But then when we kind of maybe could feel all more stable and grounded within ourselves, and we're kind of ready to move forward, then how we want to move forward is different. So, there can be things and people that we love and that we did love in our Gemini energy, but the truth of kind of what drives and motivates us is different. And then how we want to keep moving forward is different, because they have their truth and what drives and motivates them. We have our truth and kind of more what drives and motivates us. And it's different. So as you go through this process, because in your Gemini energy, you are more motivated and inspired to see through things that used to manipulate you, or being caught up more in the illusion of the world, or letting your ego run your life, or your fear. You want to be in more deep, meaningful relationships. So there will be people in your life that I think you will detach from. They'll live their life, you will go live your life. And hopefully we take the lessons that we've all learned from that life experience with us as we go. And everybody could have changed in some ways, but at a core foundational truth of what kind of ultimately drives and motivates us in the world is different. And when we accept the truth of it, that is what opens up more opportunities for us to have this inspired new beginning with people who are more on the same page as us. And it isn't about the illusion of love or the illusion of getting in a relationship for you for these other reasons. It has to be based on truth and love with other people who are looking to the future, focused on truth and love, not to be in a relationship to be in a relationship, or because of the status, ego, the image, or more out of codependency. And I think it will help you close out a cycle and have this new beginning, working through the defensiveness, working through the overwhelm, to take that cup of love to go move forward in your truth. So, what is coming up for the people who And I think as you get to know people, I think now you've learned to listen to your intuition about who seems to be more people who have illusions about what it means to be in a relationship, people who are more competitive, people who more just want to indulge in a relationship, people who like to live more from their mind than their heart, which can be trying to create an illusion they're more motivated by love, but they're not. But they want to be in a relationship with loving people because that's great, but that's not really the truth of who they are. And I think you'll just keep listening to your intuition and offering love to people. And I think as you move forward and close out an old cycle to free yourself from a layer of your more worldly, shadowy nature, you go have this new beginning coming together with others in joy and celebration. Some of those people that, as you move forward, could have been stressed out if it's just like even like a job. An employer could be like, oh my gosh, no, we can't keep having these people work here. We could have fear of letting them go because they might know the job. And then we're sitting here waiting. Is anybody else going to apply for this job? And then you work through your issues at where your job and you decide to go have a new beginning. And they see you as someone that they could have a new beginning with. They offer you a new beginning. And adding the one wand to the four of wands, which the four of wands can be a foundation, it makes the five of wands. And you bring your own unique thing to it that for some people they could be really happy because oh my gosh, we found someone who is more aligned with in their Gemini, more inspired to put in work and effort and grow and heal and mature themselves and are inspired to work here. This is someone we love and we want to keep working with. And we could be sad that that other thing didn't work out, and then there's going to be other people in that foundation, just like you can become friends with someone or you can date someone. They have their friendship group, they have their friend. If you date someone, their friend group, their family group. Some of those people are going to be, yay. Some of those people are going to be like, oh my gosh. But I'm kind of one of the more shadowy people. And this person's a more creative, inspired, loving person, more balanced. Well, then they can be stressed out. And then, you know, like, well, I don't know that I want to invest in that person. And, you know, either way, high vibe people accept the truth that everybody's where they're at. They offer people truth and love to work with them cooperatively. If those people don't want to work with them cooperatively, don't. They just see the truth of it. That's sad. But they're not going to no longer indulging people in poor behavior, And if you were to look at it as like an employer too, they could have had a lot of people that they kind of tolerate their poor behavior. And as more and more people get on board that are more inspired to put in work and effort and loved the job, or some other people maybe didn't really like that work or something, eventually the more people who that's really not their thing, they kind of drift off, and the people who are more motivated and inspired are the ones who keep moving forward in it, right? What's coming up for some people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio energy that they might not see coming? The Six of Cups. Why? Because of the Ten of Wands. So the Six of Cups is Scorpio energy, but it can talk about repeating a past pattern. Because some people, they will all repeat a past pattern. We'll repeat a past pattern until we're willing to learn the lesson we're meant to learn from it. And some people are really putting a lot of work and effort into something to maybe move something forward. And some of those people could see that this isn't ever going to move forward the way I want to move forward. But if they are kind of shadowy also, they might think, well, this isn't working out. I wanted it to work out because I like these more shadowy relationships. So they don't want to close out a cycle. They want to keep repeating an old pattern. Well, if the people they're in relationship with either aren't getting on board or indulging them or moving things forward, and they really could want to move things forward, they might think, hey, look, there's that person. I'll create an illusion about why something didn't work out and, blah, blah, blah. And I think the high vibe people will just listen to their intuition about who's telling the truth or wants to be in a relationship with someone else, but that person could not be investing in them in some way. And, shadowy energies can be where you're trying to create an illusion to get someone else in their ego. And that is someone who's trying to present themselves as more high vibrational, but they're not. And they could just be trying to cause someone else inner conflict to get those people to come invest in them. And then if those people were willing to invest in them, then they're done creating the illusion with the people they were in a relationship with. So, the long story short is that, we've all been in relationships with people that we maybe didn't want to see the truth about. We maybe weren't listening to our intuition. We could have gotten in some more mismatched relationships. We kind of didn't want to see the truth. And, eventually the truth is revealed of what really drives and motivates people. And it wasn't what we thought it was. And some people are more competitive. They're only in relationships for how it's good for their ego and their image and being indulged. And if you want a more deep, meaningful relationship, it's like, you can go. I'm going to go find someone who I think is more inspired by the world, but then they can go get in those relationships and it doesn't work out. Or those people are more inspired by the world and, you know, kind of like them in a way, kind of more superficial and shallow. And then I think I want to go be in a relationship with a more loving person. That's not the truth of who I am, but that'll be nice for a while. And then maybe build up my self esteem and make me feel like a more loving person. And then I'll go back and try to get someone who's more about ego and image and money to get in a relationship, you know. Anyway, I think they're going to repeat some poor past patterns, or they have been. And some of the people in their life are like, I've put in a lot of work and effort to get this to be a more balanced relationship. The sixes can talk about balance. To try to move this forward, I keep putting in work and effort to move it forward. You keep investing in repeating these old patterns. And that's when people drop the burden and they're like, I'm done. And then the other people are like, what? But you always repeated this pattern. I did this and you did that, and I acted this way and you acted that way, and you were never willing to be more independent because I know you love me. So I was using the love that you had for me to manipulate you, or because you wanted this to work out. And then some of the high vibe people in their life move on. And they're like, well, shit. And then they think, well, I could. High vibe, Ten of Wands and Sagittarius is about wrapping your brain around this game of life and learning lessons. I could invest in closing out a cycle of my past and I could take more inspired action in my life. But that takes work and effort. Why do I do what I do? Why didn't I work with them more cooperatively? Why am I not more just and fair? Why do I think people should indulge me? Why am I codependent on some other people? Why do I make these things in my world so important to me instead of working together with people who work together with me that are just and fair and loving? And because it could be they have a lot of lessons to learn, or they really want to keep repeating that pattern, or people in their life or people in their past are more who they're codependent on. They'll probably decide to just keep repeating that old pattern and they'll take action more out of ego. Or, you know, in order for that to be their truth, they would have a lot of lessons learned and they'd have to close out some pattern. And it could be, again, in all of their fire sign energies, they could just be more motivated and inspired by themselves for the world. And it's very hard to change our foundational truth. If you're someone who's naturally more motivated and inspired by love, that's kind of your truth. It'd be very hard to make you become someone who, at a core foundational level, is more about yourself or making these things in the world more important. And for other people, their core foundational truth is they are kind of more about those things in the world or themselves in a shadowy way. And I think ultimately they'll have more high vibrational people leave their life, and the people that they keep staying in relationship, and some of them they're just afraid of taking more creative inspired action in their life, in their fire sign energy within themselves. Not be more about me or these things of the world or my fear or my defensiveness or my ego or my immaturity or my lust or my greed. I'd actually have to learn to love myself and align with tipping more in favor of my more loving nature and being inspired more by truth and love than these other things. I think they'll end up in relationships with other people who have issues, I would say, because I think if everybody saw through the illusion of things that manipulated them, and they saw how those things are going to keep manipulating them, and it's going to stop them from being more independent and living their more authentic life, and they're going to keep kind of staying controlled by those things and feeling overwhelmed and feeling oppressed. But when we're ready to deal with the truth, we're ready to deal with the truth. And some people will never want to deal with the truth. They won't want to deal with the truth of who they are and have been. You know, high vibe Leo and high vibe Gemini and high vibe Cancer is offering yourself love and compassion and forgiveness for the mistakes that you've made. I had lessons to learn. And I admit I had lessons to learn. Then we get out of our ego and we see through the illusion of our ego. And then we also offer love and compassion and forgiveness to people in our life, accepting the truth about different people in our life who are bossy and controlling and prideful and hurtful and unkind. But some people really have a problem seeing the truth about any of those things. So they keep not wanting to see the truth, and it could keep overwhelming them. And because they don't want to deal with the truth or keep it in like a shadowy Scorpio where they keep it buried beneath the surface, I don't want to deal with it. I don't have to deal with it. It's like, you're right. You don't. You can invest in your ego. I don't have to see the truth. Instead, I can keep moving forward. But the thing is, we have the Page of Swords, the Page of Pentacles, the Page of Wands. We don't have the Page of Cups, love. It keeps them from love. And for some, it's just that they haven't learned to love themselves. And so then they can be in relationships with loving people and they reject the loving people because, um, no, I go try to get other people to change and heal and grow and mature themselves. But, and that's why sometimes you can be drawn and attracted to people because you could be someone who's loving, who offers love and encouragement to other people. The difference is at a core foundational level, you did want people to love and believe in themselves. And if they changed and they grew and healed and matured themselves, you were willing to heal and grow and mature yourself and keep moving forward with them. But we all could have rejected loving people in our life because we weren't ready to deal with some truths that we needed to deal with. So then we could have been drawn and attracted to getting in relationship with people who were the people who came into our life to help us work through those issues and see the truth of some things we needed to maybe heal from. And then that kind of set us free. Some people are still drawn and attracted to people who could remind them of people when they were a child, thinking that will make me happy to repeat that pattern. It keeps me in my comfort zone. But if you keep repeating an old pattern, generally people just don't want to keep repeating that pattern. They want to kind of get inspired to move on from it, but because generally children want to become independent, fly the nests. spread their own wings. But some people don't, and some people don't want to do love. I want, and so shadowy Scorpio. I like more superficial, shallow relationships because that, and then I want to be in relationships with people who are okay with me being that way, and maybe they're that way, and then it keeps me in my comfort zone, and I don't have to be inspired to connect in with my emotions and maybe be in relationships with people who don't reconcile themselves with issues from their past because I don't want to reconcile myself with issues from my past. I might want to be in relationships with other people who decided in their ego they're not going to see the truth about themselves or things from the past, and they keep both moving forward being overwhelmed about issues from their past. And then they could make their life about all these other things instead of love. Oh, this is good enough. We have status, ego, image, or we're going to go indulge in this. That'll make us feel better. We don't have to do love. We don't have to deal with the truth. We don't have to learn to love ourselves. But we can all get in relationships when we have some lessons to learn. Some other people can be loving and encouraging. Oh, but by the way, that is the role I like to play in people's life. I don't ever change. I might have more stability, security, have learned some lessons in life, or just be more stable or grounded within myself. I want to be in a relationship. I'll get in a relationship. Oh, but by the way, I'm not going to do love. This is how I want to move forward. And other people realize that's not their truth. And some other people might be like, you're just the type of person I've been looking for. And they might not ever be interested in stepping out of their comfort zone. Well, then that's perfect. You know, that is a just and fair relationship for them to be in. It wasn't a just and fair relationship to try to create an illusion they're more motivated by love and try to trap someone in a relationship and keep them in a relationship and manipulate the love that they have for them to keep them in it when they know they don't do love. That's an unjust relationship. If you're more just and fair and loving and encouraging, it's just and fair for you to be in relationships with other people who are like that. And for some of those people, that is not the truth of who they are. So it might be to be in a relationship with someone who's just as immature as they are, repeats some of the same patterns that they repeat, hasn't tempered their ego nature. Could be overwhelming for them to be in a relationship with someone who's like themselves, which if they're just stubborn and prideful, if they're manipulative, if they're more materialistically motivated, image motivated, it's like, because I think even shadowy people, it's like, well, no, I want to be the shadowy person. You be the loving person. It's like, well, that's not just and fair. So eventually, I think they'll end up in a relationship with someone who's like themselves, and they might find it overwhelming. And some of them will think, I'm going to leave and I'm just going to go try to find me a loving person. I'll create an illusion I'm a more loving person. Others of them are the one who was more motivated by love, but they keep thinking someone else will stop, will change. And if they are not ready to see the truth, they're going to keep moving forward in it. Oh no, I'm sure they'll change one day. I'm sure they'll get out of that. Or I'm sure they'll quit being codependent on those people or making their life more about those things. And they'll keep putting in work and effort. You know, when we're ready to drop the burden, we drop the burden and we say, I wish you peace. I'm not going to keep doing that. I can't do it anymore. I'm going to take that cup of love. I'm going to offer it to you. If you want to move forward with me differently, wonderful. If not, I wish you peace. I've made peace with it. I'm moving on. So there you go, Scorpio. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.